We covered this once before, but we're going to cover it again, being that the political atmosphere is thriving right now. There is a rumor that Colonel Sanders was a heavy segregationist that funded George Wallace's 1968 presidential campaign, which he ran heavily on segregation. George Wallace can be quoted on saying segregation today and segregation tomorrow. And a lot of people pin Colonel Sanders as his vice presidential candidate, or at least who he suggested to be his vice presidential candidate before he chose. Now, why did George Wallace want Colonel Sanders as his vice president? Because he needed a celebrity endorsement to persuade the voters. And he thought because of Colonel Sanders' southern look and hospitality and fame, that would be a good backing for him to win the presidency. But there's no evidence that Colonel Sanders funded his campaign for segregation. Matter of fact, there's more evidence to prove that Colonel Sanders was against segregation than there is to say that he was for it, so those are just rumors. George Wallace did consider Colonel Sanders, but it was shot down. My uncle wasn't a racist. My uncle was also registered a Republican who endorsed Richard Nixon, and they have letters sent back and forth, which you can find at the Shelbyville Mansion. George Tinsley and Mattie Jones would not have been friends with Colonel Sanders if he actively supported publicly a segregationist like George Wallace. So that rumor is false.